Welcome to Stripes and Stories, a show about life as a prior tiger. I'm your host, Tina James. Today we'll be turning our attention to the classroom with Kristen Graves, the Director of Teaching and Learning.
I'm Kristen Graves, and you're listening to Teacher Talk, conversations that take us inside the thinking behind a teacher's most powerful moves. Today, we're chatting with Nicole Vanderford from Roosevelt Elementary. Nikki, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I just want to start out by asking you, if you could go back in time and talk to your first year teacher self, what advice would you give?
I would probably first tell myself to give myself grace. Your first year, you come in and you're comparing yourself to the teachers that have been there for years and thinking I had to have it all together and know exactly what I'm doing when really you're learning as you go. So a little less hard on myself and just time, it'll come in time. You'll figure it out and it'll be okay. Just do your best. So that's probably my first year I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I look back and I'm like, I was doing okay. So
what's the biggest difference between the teacher you at the beginning and teacher you now?
I feel like I'm more relaxed now. I'm just that it feels, I feel like at the beginning of my career, I was trying to prove to myself and everybody around, like, I can do this, and now it's more of, it's part of me. This is who I am. This is what I do. You go to the store and my husband teases me because he says he always feels like he's out with a celebrity because when we're in town, when you teach littles, they're so excited to, see you wherever you're at. But it's become part of who I am and just more natural and less, I don't want to say less stressful because it can be stressful at times. But it's not. I'm not trying to prove to anybody. I'm just trying to do what's best for those students that year.
Yeah.
So,
kind of what I've heard you touch on a couple of different ways is that the decision making has become easier as time has gone on because of that confidence that you have. You can try new things, and some things are going to work, and some things aren't. But you have that baseline of things work for you.
Right. And I don't worry about as much if something doesn't work. When I was younger, when I first started, like that felt like a complete failure. And now it's more of a, that didn't go well. Okay, we're gonna look at that, and it's growth. It's not the end of the world. It's I can make a change for that. So
something that we've talked about with more than one person on this podcast has been too, how does working with other teachers influence you? Is that a part of your growing in your practice?
It's huge. So when I initially started teaching right out of college, I was in a very small town, small school. And so I was the only teacher for my grade level. So I didn't really have somebody to go to. And then my first experience is I got paired when I still lived in Kansas with a teacher who had taught kindergarten for 35 years. And she just kind of like took me in under her wing and was like, here, let me help you. And that was just mind blowing. Like just being able to go to her and ask questions or watch what she did or, just the conversations we'd have. And it wasn't always a big formal thing. Sometimes it was just a 5-minute conversation at lunch that really, I was like, oh, I never would have thought of that. So getting to use other people's experience and personal their experiences to help you is huge. And then now that I'm in prior, this is really my first time I've been on a team with more than one person, and the crew I'm with is amazing. We talk, we work together, we ask questions. Sometimes I think of writing. Last year, we really made some big changes in our writing curriculum. And 2 of the ladies I work with, their writing looked so much better than mine. I was like, help, what are you doing? Because this is awful. And so they showed me a few things and then it made my class grow. So I love that because it's a team mentality, and we tell our kids all the time, like, synergize, but that's really what's happening behind the scenes. And it really benefits my kids and then myself, because I've got somebody else to fall back on for advice or whatever. So
Yeah, kind of, you talked about sometimes it's a formal conversation or a big thing you're doing. Sometimes it's just a 5-minute conversation. And I think about teachers, they have their big go-to strategies, but sometimes it's just little moves that make all the difference.
Yes.
So for you, like, what are the things that are your go-to strategies? What's so effective in your classroom you would never go away from that practice?
I'm huge on procedures. Like, I spend a lot of time, and I think part of that's because I started, with lower grades in kindergarten, and now I'm in second. But procedures, like, they are worth every minute that you spend at the beginning of the year. And even this is my 16th year, and at the beginning of every year, sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're taking so long to learn how to do this. But it really pays off, especially this time of year. My crew, I don't waste a lot of time on transitions or getting ready or getting out supplies. Like, there is a procedure for everything, and they know how to do it. And even if I'm not there, things run smoothly because the kids know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do those things. So that's a huge one for me.
How long does it take you to train students to your routines?
It depends on the crew, but usually at least 6 weeks, sometimes 8. There's been a few years that it's been the first quarter we're really still working on procedures. But I would say general rule of thumb is 6 weeks usually covers it.
How do you know the class has the routine down?
I watch and I see how quickly are we doing it, and are we doing it correctly? And if we don't, we sit back down and we try again, and it's not a punishment. And that's kind of what I explained to the kids at the beginning of the year. Like, we're going to practice things so we can get really good at them, so we have time to do other things later. And I kind of compare it to sports. Like, we practice sports for fun, but also to improve. And so we're sitting down and we're going to retry this, not because we're in trouble, but because we've got to improve and do better. And a lot of times I approach it as, okay, who can tell me why we're redoing this? Who can tell me what we need to do differently? And they get it. And after a couple times, they're over there coaching each other. So, but yeah, just observation and just seeing, are we efficient? Can we do it quickly? Are we doing a good job?
Mm-hmm. So. And that resonates with me because I think that's part of expectations too. If you say, students, this is what I want to see, when you have them do it again and again until they are doing it at your level of expectation, that trains them too, that anything you put out in front of them, you want them to get to where they're doing that at their best.
Right. And I tell them, we're going to do hard things and I'm going to challenge you. And sometimes you're going to be excited about it. Other times it may be frustrating. And so we kind of go into those, the emotion conversation too, that it's okay to feel all the emotions, but it's how we handle it. So we have a lot of those conversations, especially at the beginning of the year, but then we revisit throughout the year too. Because, I get frustrated sometimes because they're not doing what they're supposed to, and they get frustrated because they don't want to have to do something again. But it's part of the process. And I feel like those conversations are super valuable because I can see kids that at the beginning of the year just, having to do something over it would ruin their whole day. And now they're, okay, well, I got to fix this, but it's okay. And I'm going to move on. So there's a lot of growth there. Yeah. That's going to help them years down the road.
Right. And that's a coping strategy they're practicing. If they never get frustrated, how can they ever practice what to do when they're in a position of being frustrated? Right. How do you know your students are learning?
It's kind of fun. Sometimes I hear myself in the classroom, but watching them teach each other, especially after Christmas, I see my kids all the time helping a friend, and not telling, and that's something we talk about, like, how do we help? So we model at the beginning of the year, but like they legitimately are over there helping their friend sound out words, or they're telling, oh, remember, we're supposed to use this strategy for math, or here's that anchor chart we use. And so that to me is huge because I'm like, if they can help someone else, and kind of mini teach, then I know they've got a solid foundation. And then just sometimes out of the blue, they'll do something that I haven't caught that they can do yet, especially those kids that you work in like small group setting or whatever, and you've been working on this one skill for so long, and then suddenly in class one day they just take off with it, and you're like, oh, you did it! I'm so proud, So moments like that, just those little pieces throughout the day.
What's your favorite thing that you do in your class?
Oh gosh, I don't. Being silly with them, just having fun. I greet my kids every day when they come in the door. We have a special handshake we use. Some kids choose to give hugs, and that's fine. We do brain breaks, and so sometimes I get up and do the brain breaks, not always, but sometimes with them, and that's always fun. Sometimes when they're working really hard and they're being quiet, I'll make a face at somebody who looks up at me, and that's always kind of fun because they'll make a face back and then they're back to work. But just having fun with them and being with them, and knowing that we're not serious all the time. Like we're a family, and families are silly, and families have fun, and family should be a place where we feel comfortable. So that's probably my favorite part, just the interactions with them. So.
Awesome. Miss V, thank you so much for spending time talking with us today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for dropping in to listen to the discussion with Ms. V. Be sure to join us next time when we'll be visiting with Amy Flaw, the Director of Child Nutrition.